We're diving into a story that has gone far beyond the usual reality TV drama that fans of Love and Marriage Huntsville have come to expect. Melody's recent revelations about her experiences with Martell are heavy, serious, and deeply personal. Unlike the petty arguments, shade, and over-the-top moments that reality TV often thrives on, Melody's story exposes a level of pain and fear that goes far beyond what the cameras ever showed. What she shared is not simply about disagreements or bad behavior, it's about harassment, emotional trauma, and the consequences of living with someone who repeatedly crossed boundaries, even after admitting wrongdoing in a legal setting. For years, fans have speculated about Melody and Martell's relationship, watching it unfold on screen as entertainment. But according to Melody herself, the story viewers were shown was only a fraction of what really happened behind closed doors. Her decision to finally speak out publicly comes after years of internal struggle, fear, and carrying the weight of experiences that went unseen, unacknowledged, and, in her words, minimized by the show's portrayal. The narrative on reality TV often focuses on heightened drama, exaggerated reactions, and selective editing to boost entertainment value. In Melody and Martell's case, what fans saw were fleeting moments, arguments, confrontations, or displays of anger that fit neatly into the show's story arc. However, Melody insists that these televised moments only scratched the surface of the trauma she experienced. The situation, she explained, began with a legal matter involving harassment charges that she filed against Martell. After several delays, Martell eventually pleaded guilty in court. While a guilty plea might normally signal the end of harassment or intimidation, Melody revealed that the reality was very different. Right after leaving the courthouse, Martell allegedly drove by her with Arian Curry in the car and continued to speak to her in a way she described as unsettling and provocative. According to Melody, he made comments about her appearance and referenced another man in her life, clearly intending to intimidate and provoke her. She even shared video clips of this encounter, demonstrating that the harassment didn't end with the legal ruling and that the court system, in her experience, did not provide the protection she needed. This moment, Melody explained, was pivotal. It showed her that the situation was not just about the legal proceedings or the televised drama, it was about real-life harassment and ongoing fear. For years, she carried this pain quietly, and the decision to finally speak out was not impulsive. It was the result of living with emotional exhaustion, fear, and frustration that no one could see on camera. Melody highlighted the stark contrast between what was shown on television and what was happening in her life. On screen, audiences witnessed small conflicts, dramatic confrontations, or moments designed for entertainment value. Behind the scenes, however, she faced alleged physical aggression, threats, and situations that compromised her safety. She described the emotional toll as profound, explaining that she often felt trapped between maintaining her privacy, protecting her children, and navigating a public narrative that misrepresented her experiences. Among the most alarming details Melody shared were allegations that Martell had physically assaulted her during their marriage, including claims that he punched her. She also stated that he had publicly shared her home address, a terrifying act that placed both her and her children at risk. To mitigate the danger, Melody recounted asking someone to sit outside her home simply to ensure she was not alone. These moments underscore a reality that goes far beyond what a typical reality TV storyline could capture. Melody emphasized that this fear was not a fleeting feeling, it was constant, invasive, and deeply affecting her life as a mother. The threat of harassment, compounded by legal delays and selective portrayal on television, created an environment where she felt unsafe not only for herself, but for her children as well. Melody also addressed the issue of selective editing on the show, which she argued painted her in a misleading and unfair light. According to her, certain parts of police reports detailing threats and violent behavior were omitted from television coverage, while clips of her reactions, sometimes moments where she expressed anger or frustration, were repeatedly aired. For instance, footage allegedly showing Martell hitting her with pillows during a trip to Vegas was never broadcast, while a moment where she threw a glass, which viewers may remember vividly, was replayed multiple times. Melody believes this selective editing distorted the public's perception, creating a narrative that made her appear unstable while shielding Martell from accountability. This misrepresentation, she said, contributed to fans defending Martell and questioning her character, further compounding her emotional burden. Melody made it clear that the decision to speak out publicly was about reclaiming her voice and asserting boundaries. She refused to participate in a show that profited from her pain while minimizing the severity of her experiences. In her words, she no longer felt obligated to protect Martell's image or maintain silence for the comfort of others. She explained that continued interactions, particularly after the court incident where Martell allegedly confronted her again, only reinforced her decision to speak openly. Martell's comments about her having a new man, made in front of another individual, were not about personal grievances. They were, in Melody's description, harassment intended to provoke, intimidate, and assert control. Her statements emphasized that she did not instigate these encounters. She was responding to behavior that violated boundaries and threatened her safety. Beyond her personal experience, Melody raised broader concerns about reality television and the responsibilities of networks in portraying serious issues. She highlighted how toxic behaviors are sometimes amplified for ratings, while the consequences of such behavior are minimized or ignored. Melody referenced examples of reality TV figures being removed from shows due to toxic conduct, noting that while situations may differ, the principle is the same. Harmful behavior should never be treated as acceptable entertainment. She called attention to the ways in which editing choices, selective storytelling, and audience perception can distort reality, turning genuine pain and danger into dramatic content for viewers. Her reflections were not just about her own story, they were a critique of an industry that often prioritizes spectacle over accountability. Melody also addressed those who continued to defend Martell despite the allegations against him. She expressed disbelief that people could support someone accused of serious misconduct without understanding the full context of the situation. For years, she explained, she prioritized the comfort and perception of others over her own peace. Speaking out now is a radical shift, an act of reclaiming her voice and refusing to let others dictate the narrative of her life. Melody emphasized that this was not about revenge, jealousy, or bitterness. It was about safety, dignity, and the ability to live without fear of harassment or intimidation. Central to Melody's message was the importance of enforcing boundaries. She insisted on no contact with Martell outside of matters involving their children, and even then, communication should be limited and potentially supervised if necessary. She argued that boundaries are essential for healing and that real peace cannot be achieved without creating and maintaining safe spaces, free from conflict or fear. Her insistence on these boundaries reflects the seriousness of her experiences and underscores the emotional toll of long-term harassment, public scrutiny, and selective media portrayal. Melody's story is not just about entertainment, it is a case study in personal agency, self-preservation, and reclaiming autonomy in a world that often profits from other people's pain. Melody also reflected on how her story intersects with broader discussions about reality television. She challenged viewers to recognize that what is shown on screen is often only a partial truth. Reality TV may entertain, but it also has a responsibility to portray events accurately, especially when serious allegations are involved. Her revelations force audiences to think critically about what they are consuming and to understand that behind the dramatized interactions are real people living complex lives, often with real fear, grief, and pain. Melody's willingness to speak openly about her experiences represents a shift from entertainment to accountability, a reminder that real consequences exist beyond what the cameras capture. However, Melody described a scene that, according to her, exposed just how unsafe she had been made to feel. Right after leaving court, Martell allegedly drove by with Arian Curry in the car, continuing to make comments toward Melody. She shared video clips of the encounter, showing Martell saying, "It's over now," while making remarks about her appearance and referencing another man in her life. According to Melody, this behavior was intentionally provocative and meant to intimidate her. For her, the encounter was proof that the legal system had not fully protected her, and it became the moment she realized she could no longer remain silent. She explained that she had been holding in years of pain, fear, and frustration, and that this moment was the breaking point that finally pushed her to share the full story publicly. Melody emphasized that the story the public sees on television is only a small fraction of what she experienced, and she questioned why so many people, particularly women, continued to defend Martell despite what she alleges happened behind closed doors. The gravity of Melody's statements is significant and, frankly, alarming. Among the allegations she shared, she claimed that Martell had punched her during their marriage, leaked her home address publicly, and even pulled a gun on her while threatening her life. She went so far as to say that Martell admitted he had contemplated killing her. These are serious allegations, and they completely shift the lens through which viewers might perceive their story on television. One of the most unsettling parts of Melody's revelations was the leaking of her home address. She described feeling so unsafe in her own home that she asked someone to sit outside just to ensure her safety. As a mother, this fear was amplified because her children lived at the same address. Melody emphasized that sharing a mother's home address in such circumstances is not just reckless, it is dangerous, especially when children are involved, and highlights the severity of the situation beyond what reality TV ever portrayed. Melody also raised concerns about how selective editing on Love and Marriage Huntsville contributed to a misleading narrative. She questioned why some police reports and video evidence, which allegedly included threats against her life and violent behavior, were never shared with viewers, while other moments that made her look bad were aired repeatedly. She referenced an incident during a trip to Las Vegas in which Martell allegedly threw pillows at her with force, hitting her in the face. According to Melody, footage of this incident exists, but was never broadcast. Instead, the show focused heavily on a moment where she threw a glass at Martell, a scene that many viewers remember clearly. Melody argued that this selective portrayal painted her as the aggressor, while simultaneously protecting Martell from accountability, a pattern that she says has caused widespread misunderstanding of her story and ultimately influenced her decision to step away from the show. Melody made it explicitly clear that she refuses to finance her own abuse, meaning she will not participate in a show that profits from her pain while downplaying or ignoring the severity of her experiences. As she spoke, her frustration and exhaustion were palpable. She addressed critics who question why she has no interest in returning to Love and Marriage Huntsville, asserting that she does not owe anyone access to her trauma. Returning to the show, she explained, would require reopening old wounds and allowing moments of alleged abuse to be edited, dismissed, or ignored again. She has protected Martell for years by remaining silent, she said, but she no longer feels obligated to do so. Her decision to speak openly is a deliberate act of reclaiming her voice, prioritizing her safety, and refusing to enable behavior that caused her harm. The situation escalated further after the court appearance. Melody described how Martell and Arian allegedly drove back to where she was, continuing to make provocative comments. Martell allegedly remarked on her having a new man and repeatedly attempted to provoke her. Melody questioned why someone who had just pleaded guilty to harassment would engage in behavior that could have landed him back in court. She also questioned Arian's presence in the car, highlighting the inappropriateness of sitting quietly while Martel commented on his ex-wife years after their divorce. In Melody's eyes, this demonstrated a lack of boundaries, maturity, and respect. She emphasized that this behavior was not about jealousy or lingering bitterness. It was about harassment, control, and an inability to move on appropriately. Melody repeatedly stressed her reactions were calm and measured, and that she did not provoke the situation, underscoring her commitment to showing viewers the context and truth behind the interactions. As the video clips replayed, Melody walked viewers through what happened, explaining her responses and the context of the exchanges. She made it clear that she remained composed during these interactions, and that she was not the instigator of the harassment. Her repeated insistence that the record, history, and truth reflect her perspective highlights how critical it was for her to speak openly after years of silence. Melody described carrying years of emotional pain, fear, and frustration that went largely unseen by the public, emphasizing that the moments captured on television were only a small portion of the reality of her experience. Melody's revelations force viewers to reconsider how they perceive Love and Marriage Huntsville. What appeared on television as drama or conflict was, according to Melody, only a fraction of the story. She raised important questions about why so many people, including women, continued to defend Martel despite allegations of physical abuse, harassment, and threats to her life. For Melody, speaking out is not simply about clearing rumors or responding to social media commentary. It is about asserting her safety, reclaiming her dignity, and controlling her own narrative in the face of a system that she feels did not protect her. Melody also addressed the emotional toll of having to protect someone who allegedly harmed her. She spoke about the exhaustion of co-parenting while carrying the weight of trauma and navigating public scrutiny. She explained that returning to the show would have meant reliving these experiences in a way that could be edited to diminish her pain for the sake of entertainment. Instead, Melody has chosen to establish firm boundaries, prioritize her mental health, and speak openly about her lived experiences. She stressed that her decision is not about revenge, it is about safety, autonomy, and finally refusing to stay silent about the pain and fear she endured for years. In the end, Melody's statements are a reminder that reality TV is often only a partial reflection of real life. Editing and production decisions can create narratives that distort reality and obscure serious issues, including harassment and threats of violence. Her willingness to speak openly forces a conversation about accountability, boundaries, and the responsibilities of networks to consider the well-being of the people they feature on screen. Melody's decision to break her silence is a turning point, not only in her own life, but in how viewers may approach reality TV stories moving forward. Her story underscores the importance of listening critically, questioning narratives, and understanding that behind every scene is a real person navigating complex emotions, safety concerns, and experiences that cannot be reduced to drama or entertainment. Melody's courage also reminds viewers that the human experience cannot be fully captured in edited television footage. Beyond the drama, beyond the arguments, there are real lives, real emotions, and real risks. Her revelations challenge audiences to consider what they see on screen with a critical eye, and to acknowledge that serious allegations like hers are not just stories. They are lived experiences that require understanding, respect, and attention. By speaking out, Melody is reclaiming her voice, asserting her boundaries, and demonstrating that truth and safety take precedence over entertainment or public opinion. In the end, Melody's statements are not just about a messy divorce or a reality TV show. They are about accountability, dignity, safety, and the right to walk away from environments that no longer serve a person's well-being. She has set a precedent for speaking openly about her experiences, forcing uncomfortable but necessary conversations about harassment, selective editing, and the impact of reality television on real lives. Her story is a reminder that the truth is more complicated than what appears on screen, and that protecting yourself and your children should always come first. In addition to addressing the harassment and selective editing, Melody acknowledged the human experiences that transcend television. She paid tribute to the passing of Roland Ray, reminding viewers that loss, grief, and personal struggles continue regardless of what is portrayed on a screen. This reflection puts the drama in perspective, highlighting the distinction between entertainment and real-life experiences, and reinforcing her message that behind every story are people navigating their own emotions, challenges, and safety concerns. In her final message, Melody was clear about her intentions for the future. She wants peace, safety, and the ability to live her life free from harassment and public judgment. By speaking out, she reclaimed her narrative and set boundaries that prioritize her well-being and the well-being of her children. She urged viewers not to take sides blindly, but to listen critically, consider the layers of the story, and understand that reality TV often shows only what producers choose to highlight. Melody's decision to share her story after years of silence is a powerful reminder that personal truth matters more than public perception or television ratings. This situation is no longer just about a reality TV show or a messy divorce. It is about accountability, respect, safety, and the right to walk away from environments that no longer serve a person's well-being. Melody's bravery in speaking out after years of silence marks a turning point, not only in her own life, but in how viewers might interpret reality TV stories moving forward. At its core, this is not about entertainment, it is about truth, dignity, and the power to finally be heard. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more in-depth coverage and analysis. Remember, there's always more to the story than what you see on screen, and real lives and real consequences exist behind the cameras.